Great evening, everyone. Thank you and welcome. Great evening, everyone. Thank you and welcome back to another episode of Releasing My Secret, the podcast where we bring on speakers and they amplify their voice one story at a time. This is, or I am, Coach Santrisa. I am a certified trauma recovery coach and also the CEO of Inspired by You. And I am so excited on tonight to have Coach Candice with us. And, as I say, I always speak to our guests before we come on the show, even though our conversations are very candid and it's just a conversation, but we always speak and we always talk. And I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her about what she does and whatever she feels free to share. We know this is an open platform. And so remember, if you have any questions while we are talking, to put it in the comments below. We will be able to respond to them over time. We will see them and be able to get back in contact with you. So y'all know I can get chatty. And so I am not going to continue to talk. I am going to introduce Candace. And thank you again, Candace, for coming on the show. And if you could introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you.
Thank you so much. And I am equally as excited to be here. So thanks again. I'm Candace Friesen, and I'm a mom of four. I'm a money coach, and I'm also a real estate agent in Canada. And so I'm in Manitoba. It's a province right above Minnesota, in the middle of the country. And I live in a rural area outside of our main city and just live the quiet country life and love it. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you again. I'm so excited. First of all, I'm excited because the money coach side, I'm like really excited about that because I'm in transition. I'm working on my finances. We just did, I think it was like a 21-day financial fast with my church. And I was really excited about that, nice. Which was really hard because doing a financial fast in the middle of moving is not the best.
Yeah.
It's not the best thing to do. It's very challenging. So I said, I'm gonna do it again and work on that again. Yeah. But can you tell us a little bit about what is a money coach?
Yeah. So money coaching, I think so often people think, okay, well, if I've got something to talk about money, then I'm going to go to my banker or I'm going to go to my financial planner. But other than that, we kind of just try and watch what other people are doing, maybe get some lessons from our parents if we're lucky, because a lot of parents don't talk about money. You don't learn about it in school, but we just kind of watch what other people are doing, hope for the best. And, maybe we can retire one day. And it's this thing that we can't really talk about with people or with our friends. You don't get together and over dinner say, hey, what are you guys investing in? Like, it's just not that kind of topic, right? And so the purpose of a money coach is really to have somebody independent just to say, hey, I've got questions about this, or I need help with this. And wherever you're at in your money journey, that, I can meet you there and we go from there, whatever you're looking to do, right? So some people it's, I'm struggling. I just need to get out of debt, and they can't focus on investing because debt is what's dragging them down. It's this huge stress, right? Some people, there's gambling issues, there's marital issues. Like, money is part of everything in life, right? And I really feel that we have to look at money also if we're going to have a really great holistic life, because you could be struggling in one area and really it's about something else, right? So you could be having problems with your marriage, but it's because you have issues with your child or with money or whatever it is, right? So we really have to look at all of the areas of life and try to excel in each one, right?
That is so true. I know growing up, my parents never talked about money, never talked about it with us. And so I remember being 19 and, well, no, I wasn't 19. I probably was 18, freshly 18. I had just moved back home. And in regards to credit, I went and pre-approved for a mortgage. Mm-hmm. And I had no clue what it was. I got the pre-approval. I didn't know what I was doing. And it just kind of slips through the cracks. And so now I'm older, I'm like trying to get it pre-approved, right? And I'm like, if I would have just listened back then or had somebody to talk to back then, like, I could probably be in a different place now. And I think that that is very key to start having conversations at a young age with your children or just with the youth in regards to money. But it's not, you don't do like, do you do credit counseling, or is it like a little bit different?
Yeah, well, a lot of it we start with is mindset. So it's like you said, it's things that we're told or taught when we're young, and that becomes our beliefs, right? So you could come from a wealthy family and kids in school always say, oh, you're that rich girl or you're that rich boy. And you are very sensitive to it and it bothers you a lot. And you hate money because of how you were treated, right? Or the opposite, like I never had money. We went to the food bank. I had a single mom. Money was a stress. There was never food. So now money just stresses me out. I don't talk about it. I avoid it, right? So it could be anything, right? There's lots of different things that we learn about money, or people, maybe your parents tell you, we're not those people. We will never have a house. We will never, right? Then you think that's just what you believe. So you never think that you can actually get a home, or you don't think you'll ever be in management because your parents never were, and stuff like that, right? There's also struggles with, if you're excelling financially more than your friends, there can be that friction again, right? Like, well, who do you think you are that you're doing so well in life? And so when you're changing social economically, there can be that friction, and that can be really hard. So there's all these different dynamics, and everybody's story is very different. And that's where I think it's just, it's really a gift. And I'm just very blessed to be able to help people through wherever they're at, because we need to have people to talk to. We were made to live in community, and yet so many times it feels like, well, we just got to figure this out on our own, right? And I think we can all do better if we're helping each other out and getting through our struggles. So
that's true. I always say, like, we're helpers of one another, right? Iron sharpens iron. I always say it. I think I wind up saying it on every show because I really believe that. I believe that we're all codependent and codependent on each other, but mostly codependent on the Lord. And so what you're saying is absolutely right. And I was, while you was talking, I'm thinking at the same hand, and I'm like, that's so true, because if your mindset is not built for success and prosperity, we hear a lot of people, especially in Christendom, talk about, the Lord's going to bless you with money. Some people prophesy, some people say those things, and people are really excited about all this money they have come in, but their mindset is not prepared for it, right? And so for me, I remember coming off of one job, going into another job, and my salary doubled. And so you don't really think about it, like you get more money, you either tend to spend more, or you become very scared because now you're in a new tax bracket. Now I don't know what to do. Do I do a 401k plan? I don't want to put money in a 401k plan. Like, so your mindset has to change. And then I say that also too for people who are, like, at one point in time I was on housing. And so when I was on housing, you can only make a certain amount of money. You can only do a certain amount of things, right?
Yeah.
And so I know the Lord was telling me, I'm going to teach you to be independent on me, to be dependent on me solely. And I had no clue how he was going to do it. But I knew when I wound up walking away from my housing, that was the moment that the Lord was teaching me to trust him with my finances instead of government agencies. And there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times people tend to get stuck in that mindset. Like, I was scared. I was like, succeed, I'm going to fail. I'm setting myself up to fail. What am I going to do? I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. And I've been more successful off of it than I've been when I was on it. You know what I mean? And so mindset that's just like, is key. As you were saying earlier, is key. What made you go into financial counseling? Coaching.
Well, I was like this nerdy kid who, when I was 12, I was reading personal finance books. And I think part of it was that, like, okay, I see my parents have a business. Like, how am I going to do this? And again, what do you ask as a 12-year-old? You're not really sure. So I just started reading books and trying to learn, because I'm like, hey, well, one day I'm going to have to do this, and how am I going to pay for a house? And I don't know. So I think just by reading, it was a way to feel more confident about it. And then the other part was just, you know, I grew up with a strong work ethic. So I knew one way or another I was going to make this work, right? I was very driven even as a kid. I was going to figure this out. So so I know that that is different for everybody. And so I'm I'm fortunate that I had an entrepreneurial background. And I know that it's very different when you have parents who aren't, and you're trying to start a business and they're like, no, keep your secure job. What are you doing? Why are you starting a business? This is ridiculous. So again, it's all these things that are around us, different people speaking into you know, what we're doing. And we obviously are always going to take in people's opinions about things, right? So it's very hard sometimes to have, you know, the focus and the strength sometimes to follow these dreams and these passions. And again, what God's leading you to do when you've got different people's opinions also around you. So anyway, fast forward, I ended up becoming a realtor, and then full circle, like often what happens in life, I always say never, because the Lord leads you in lots of different ways. But people kept saying, okay, but could you help me more about money? Could you, like, it seems like you know about money. Could I ask you a couple of questions? And so again, I think that you need to really listen and take in what people are saying about you as giftings. And so often we just brush it aside. But when people say it enough, you got to listen, right? And that's often a cue that you need to go in a different direction. And so I just started doing more money coaching and helping people. And so my focus really, you know, I've done well with real estate, but you know, you always sort of go to that next level or that next challenge. And it's easier to stay comfortable, like you said, and I could just stay being a realtor and it's great. But, you know, that next level is, okay, if I can help a family that can help their kids, that can help the community, right? And
Yeah.
that ripple effect, that's so important to me. So.
Yeah, that's so so true. And I think a lot of people need help in that area. I think that they don't like to admit it sometimes. A lot of times I think people try to figure it out themselves. And I think it's very important always to have someone who you could go to, you could talk to in regards to budgeting and things like, you know, things like that. And so what I wanted to talk to you about, because, you know, I always like to kind of think about certain things. And so let's just come to stewardship of money, right? Because a lot of times in church, we hear people struggle with that, right? In regards to money management, I think that's so when you teach strategies, because I'm pretty sure that you're a money coach to non-believers and believers. Mm-hmm. So when you're teaching a strategy to a believer, what does that kind of look like? Is there scriptural context that you give and, you know, that you back up with? Do you stress the emphasis of tithing or just of giving, like sowing? You know, some people say sow a seed, sow in their life, sow into this. And so how do you normally structure? And without giving out like all of your stuff, but like how do you normally like, you know, kind of structure that?
I think that people come from different beliefs around tithing. So I really respect where people come from. So some people are like, I got to do the 10% to the penny. The next person's like, I'm constantly just giving and giving and giving. And that, there's no, you know, I'm not counting the dollars, right? And some people are like, well, I'll give whenever I can. You know what I mean? So I think that that's really between them and the Lord in some ways of where they're at spiritually with that. But I think that it's very important to recognize that we need finances. We got to have our finances in order to be able to take advantage of opportunities. So I had this woman, and we were having this great conversation about where, you know, her and her husband wanted to go with doing some missions work and things like that. And she just said, because my house is paid off, I've got options, right? And I think that's something that we maybe don't think about enough. But if we have some money, and it doesn't have to be a house paid off, right? But if we've got An emergency fund, we kind of have that covered. If something comes up, we're not strapped, right? If we've got a fund that we're building on the side to just have available for when, again, a need comes up, then we have that. And we're a little bit more intentional, I think, to look for opportunity, because we know, right? Okay, God, show me the opportunity. I have this money set aside and I'm ready, right? So I think looking at it financially, if the more that we can be financially sound, not stressed out, our focus can be up, right? Instead of, how am I going to pay for the hydro today? How am I going to pay for there's that constant stress, and you can't be focused on two things at once. So we have to get our finances in order, figure out that piece so that we can actually, I feel, be more of a steward and really more intentional in our faith life and be able to give back in bigger ways. So, and not always stressing the money piece either, because there's giving of your time, there's giving of your talents, right? Your gifts. And so again, we tend to look at the money piece a lot, but it's equally as important. And we all know those people who they'll put anything down that they're doing to go serve and to go give of their time, right? And so all of those gifts, right? The wealth that we have is not just money, but if we're looking at it from a money piece, then yeah, we got to get everything organized so that we can give more.
You know, you said something really key, emergency fund. I got to learn. I say this all, I think this podcast is going to cause me to not have any money because I meet so many great coaches, and I'll be like, I have to book you for a session. And I really do mean it. Like, some coaches, like, I've called afterwards, like, listen, we need to talk because I had a whole emergency fund and it seemed like everything was an emergency. Everything.
Oh, yes.
Everything was an emergency. Oh my gosh. It was just hard to say no. It was just like, you got that money over there.
It's true.
It's like, you know, they say save at least whatever your rent is or mortgage, double that, or they'll say at least $1,000 for your emergency fund. And I'm like, I don't know what should be. If it's $2, that's emergency for me. Because I get happy if I'm in the car and I'm coming into a toll and I open up my little thing and I see $5, I'm like ecstatic. I just try to forget about it. Because
I know. And it's baby steps again, right? It's not that we go from like having nothing to suddenly this beautiful emergency fund and a paid off house and all this stuff, right? It just, that's not realistic. And I think when we're when we're trying to get out of the cycle of like, I'm just paying it and another bill comes up and you're just, day to day, it's just surviving. It's really hard to think of like way past that, right? But it's the baby steps.
Yeah.
And and it's just like the biblical lesson of sowing and reaping. And we put the seeds in the ground and you got to wait and you got to take care of it and you got to keep at it. And finally the harvest comes, right? But in today's society, it's all instant gratification, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to start the savings thing. So this better work out by tomorrow or else, I'm just going to give up again, right? And that's for anything that you can try and do in life. So having that perseverance and that determination it's hard, it's like we were talking about, working out and eating healthy, and it's the same, right? We can't do it once and be like, oh, now I've got abs. Like it's that day to day and having that perseverance to keep going. That's hard. But when we've got goals and we can do it.
And that's true, because somebody be like, well, I'm getting paid. I'm gonna take $500 out of my check and I'm gonna just throw that in there. And sometimes that's not realistic for people. And so I think they set themselves up for disappointment. They set themselves up for, like all of a sudden, I used to use this program called Digit. Mm-hmm. And Digit used to take money out of my account and tuck it away. They called it a rainy day fund. Yeah. And it was great. It was a great process, out of sight, out of mind, but not really out of sight, out of mind, because I'm like, I know what was in there, where to go. And then they'll say Digit. Right? But I wanted to get to the point to where I was disciplined enough where I didn't need a program to do that for me. Right? I didn't want it to be automated. I want it to kind of say, okay, and have that discipline and that stewardship to say, okay, God, this is what I want to spend. This is what I want to do. And I think really understanding that a lot of times we don't need the things that we buy. We want them. And I like shop therapy. So
many people. Yeah.
But my shop therapy was a little bit different. So I used to coupon and people say coupon is great. You save a lot of money, but you don't, because those dollars that you're spending still add up to dollars. And so even though I had probably like 50 bottles of dishwashing liquid, why? And then I was still buying it. So my shop therapy was really for the house. And so I think that, like you said, is your mindset of, what you're doing. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I can't splurge on this, but I think I was trying to justify buying household products because that's something that I would need.
Yeah.
But how many dishes do you have?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that plays a part, if I'm right, if the need versus the want, right? I think, does that play a big part in the mindset part of it?
Yeah. And everyone has their vice. Everyone has their thing that they do, right? And so we always think like, oh, I'm the only one, or why can't I just get it together finally? But we all have these things, but we have to understand the why behind it, right? So an example is, let's say at the end of the week, every Friday or every payday, every other Friday, I go to the mall and I blow $300 on clothes or whatever. Why am I doing it? That's the part that we don't think about. It's like, well, I got paid, so I'm just going to go blow money. But maybe it's because I hate my boss. Maybe it's because I have a bad marriage. Maybe it's because I'm trying to keep up with my friend who always looks great, right? And I feel bad about myself, and it's a confidence thing, and it could be anything, right? But we don't look at that. So then I get home and I look at all this clothes and I'm like, why did I do this? And then I feel guilty and I feel stressed out because now how am I going to pay for this? Or I put it on the card again, or you know what I mean? So it's this vicious cycle that we just keep putting ourselves through instead of being like, no, enough. Like, I got enough clothes, really. We could probably use all the clothes that we have for the next couple of years, right? If we really wanted to. But what's the driving force behind the spending? And so once we start uncovering some of those things, then we understand, and it's like, oh, okay, like now I don't need to spend like that anymore, right?
Wow, that's true. Maybe I need to start writing down. Maybe, just maybe. Maybe I need to start reevaluating a couple things.
And I'm not saying we can't spend, like, obviously. But we're trying to like really like, I want to retire early, or I want to start a business, or I want to start a ministry. Like, there's ways, right? There's ways to do it. And if you don't have the resources, other people do, but they don't have the dreams, right? So maybe it's talking to other people. But yeah, if we're just really, we're really set and we really know what our goals are, then that's going to help us, I think, also get through some of the things that we spend on, or we're a little complacent with, or, you know.
Boundaries are key, right? It's key because I'll give my like, I love to give, I love to help. Like, that's just me. That's Century. So that's how I am, right? And it's hard for me to say no, but then I'll be like, I don't got nothing to say. Like, wait, and so let me just say this. When you set a boundary, what's the best way to say, you don't want to lie and say, I don't have it, the money. Like, I don't have it. So what's the best way to communicate that? Like, so if someone asks you, say, like, Candace, you got $5? And you know you got $5, but you're on a budget and you really can't afford to give it right now. How do you say no without saying no?
I think that you just need to be honest and say, you know what, I have to actually pay for stuff too, and I don't have a ton extra, but is there any other way I can help you?
See, y'all, that's why she's the money coach and I'm the trauma recovery coach.
Just be honest, right? I don't know. But yeah, if you say you don't have money and then you show up in a new dress the next day, they're like, yeah, you got the money. And we know everyone knows we've got the money, right? But And, or just say like, yeah, actually I'm tackling debt right now and I'm just trying to, I took on too much debt and so I got to deal with my own problems right now or what, you know what I mean? So.
And see everybody, that's key. Just be like, listen, I have it, but I have goals that I need to meet myself. And right now I can't spare it. Right. I think that'll probably be like, I can't spare that right now. Like, I know it's only $5, but I just can't do it right now. Honesty is definitely the best policy because I'll just be like, no, like,
and there are lots of resources out there. And sometimes like we feel like we have to tackle everybody's problems, but sometimes we just have to show people a different way, right? So like in our community, and it might be different here in Canada, right? But I think in every community, there's different ways. For example, if someone's like, I'm not getting my social security money for like welfare in Canada. I'm not getting my check, or my child tax money is late, or it's delayed, or there's some kind of issue, right? So people are like, does anyone have any groceries, right? And it's easy to go to the store and quickly buy some stuff for them, right? But the next minute there's somebody else, and how do you pick one and not the other sometimes, right? But in our community, we have a soup kitchen on a Tuesday, and we have the food bank every other Friday. And you know what I mean? But sometimes people don't even know what's out there. So sometimes just saying like, okay, I know you don't have a ride, but can I give you a ride on Thursday? So we don't always have to be doing, again, we can give of our time and our connections and people that we know, or different resources that are out there, but we don't always have to be saving the world every day either, right? And I think every personality, and that's another thing we go through, is money personalities. Everybody has a different personality around money, and like anything, when you do personality profiling, a personality has positive and negative. All of them do, right? So if you're a very giving person, that's a positive. But if you give it all away and you got nothing for yourself, that's not a positive, right? And so again, when we're a giver, we just have to be careful not to, still take care of number one, so we got something for tomorrow, right?
Are you going to invoice me later?
I'm the same. I love helping people.
I had to put my head down. I'm just gonna, because the Lord has a way of sometimes, I mean, you hear things, but then you hear it, and then sometimes like, okay, God, yeah, that's confirmation, because sometimes we go through things, and I think we just don't talk about money. I think you hear people say that's the root of all evil, and then and maybe that's why people don't talk about money, right? Because they're like, well, the Bible says the root of all evil, but no, it still answers certain things too, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a very important topic to talk about, a very important something to tackle, because you really can't function without it. Yeah. So you might as well deal with it and embrace it, and embrace the good. And you have to embrace, like you said, it's two, like you was talking about the positive and the negative to personalities, but it's the same thing with handling finances. That, you have the good parts, where you're a good steward, and then there might be some areas where you're not that good of a steward in. And so, you have to always examine that as well, because it comes with life, So I know you worked with a ton of people. I can only imagine the people that you've helped. And so what is like one of the best compliments that you've gotten from someone, or reviews, something that stood out to you, or maybe you've seen the change, maybe they didn't come back and say thank you, because not everybody does. Sometimes people get to the point of their success or where they want to be, and they just kind of disappear. So what is the one that experience that kind of stood out to you?
I think that the most common thing, and I think that this is probably, when I say it, people are going to say, well, yeah, that's me too. But most people, we kind of have an idea of what we should be doing, but there's so much that we get overwhelmed and we take no action, and we're just spinning our wheels. And so when you work with a coach, you get that clarity, but you also have taking action on little things where you start to see the results, right? So an example would be, a couple where they haven't tackled their will yet, and we make the appointment and they tackle the will, right? Like, again, these are not like huge things usually. And there's not usually these like aha moments. A lot of it is just like, Candace, you don't know how I'm so calm now, and I'm not stressed anymore because we finally got all these things done that we know we need to do, right? And doing the budget, that's like a ball and chain, right? Like, oh, I don't want to do the budget. But if we change our mindset about it and say, you know what, a budget's a map, like it's just going to help us see where we need to go so that we're calm, right? You know, if I want to travel from Canada to Florida and I just say, well, if I just point my car south, I'll end up there somehow. That's not going to be a very calm and stress-free trip. That's going to be stressful. I don't know if I have enough money to get there. I don't know how long it's going to take. But if I take out a map and I plan a few things, it's going to be pretty enjoyable because I'm going to say, well, I'll probably get this far the first day, and then the second day we'll travel there and I'll see a few things because it's all planned out, right? So if we think of a budget that way, then a budget brings clarity, right? And it makes you calm about finances. So if something comes up, you're like, you know what? It's okay because I'm going to have that covered, right? I've got things figured out. So, and again, with marriages, it's tricky. Relationships are tricky, right? So if you're a single person and you've got struggles, we all do with money, that's one thing. But when you bring another person into it, usually both people have different personalities with money, different history when what they've been told about money from their past, and then they decide to have kids, and they both have ideas of how they're going to treat money with their kids, right, and what they're going to teach, and kids cost a lot of money, and all these different things, right? So having a relationship and money obviously is a whole nother stress level too, right? So so just all those different things, I think, when you can bring that clarity and make some decisions, really, right? Instead of just thinking about things or not knowing how to bring it up with your spouse, but you've got that sort of person to bring up different things and have that discussion and make some decisions, that it just brings, again, just calm and just tackles the stress level in relationships too, so.
That's true. So what type of resources, like what's your go-to resources that you use? And it could be very generic, but like what are your resources that you tend to use, even in your personal, as you're managing your own, finances?
Yeah. So yeah, when you're both working a job, that's very different. But once you have businesses and different investments and stuff, it can get quite complicated. So I think that whatever works for you is what you need to use. So some people, they're going to use a piece of paper and a pen, then do it, right? Use a napkin. It doesn't matter to me, right? You need to just find a system that works for you. So I usually will recommend a few things, and then I like people to go and explore what they like. So there's an app called Mint. Some people love that app. And you can connect it to your banking, and right away the app will put all your money into the different categories. So you can see according to your budget, how much you spent, and it's all pretty automatic. So some people love that. The next person's like, again, pen and paper, and they're just writing it all out. So there's no one way, right? And I think, again, we're always looking for the perfect way to do this stuff. There's no perfect, right? Find a way that works for you, that you're comfortable with, and just get started. But when we're searching out apps and all this stuff for months, then we're not doing anything again, right? So we're really good at distracting ourselves.
I am a pen and paper person when it comes to certain things. I think I am. It depends, like a calendar. I'm good at a calendar. I've had apps to show me what I'm spending my money on, and some days I want to be like, ouch. Like, really? Because you really don't realize it. And I think what happens is the evil that's behind that debit card, because you can swipe. Some things don't clear right away. And so I think people just run into that obstacle of now you see older people do this. You don't really see young people do this because a lot of young people don't know how to write a check, unfortunately. But you see older people pull out their bank ledger I don't even think banks give them out anymore. Like the ledger.
No.
I haven't seen, like I opened up an account and I haven't seen, they didn't give me a bank ledger. Anyway, so for everybody who's young and who's listening, I have to give you just a bank ledger. You keep track of your deposits and your credits on this piece of paper. So every time you take money, you swipe your card. Every time you do anything with your account, you're supposed to record it in the ledger. So then you'll know your accurate balance. And that is supposed to help you to know so that you won't overdraft your account.
Yeah.
But you'll just swipe. And like my son, oh my gosh. So he opened up his first bank account. I have to just tell the story real quick. And they told him about overdraft.
Oh.
The messed up part about telling him about overdraft, they didn't explain that it's $35 per transaction that you get charged, whether it's $1, whether it's $2, whether it's $50. So he's thinking, I can swipe. I have no money. Swipe. And I'm only going to pay one fee of $35. Oh, was he wrong? Right? And he was like, what happened? I was like, what you mean?
Yeah.
What you just do? And so we had to fix it and you know, like talk to the bank or whatever, get everything situated and then put a block on overdraft. But I mean, it's just thinking is just, that's a whole nother, I think that's a whole nother conversation that we could just talk about forever because it's changed so much from years ago and it's constantly evolving. So like you said, it's just like, we're always looking for the shortcut. We're always looking for someone else to do it. I think that if we go back to the basics sometimes, it will be easier to embrace what else is coming up. I think it's hard to embrace it or try to minimize your use of your debit card as much. I know people don't like to carry cash, but for me, if I have cash on me, I tend to not spend it as fast as I would swiping my card.
Definitely, Or you get the little fear, that little stress, like, oh, there goes another 20, there goes another 20. But when you're swiping, like you said, you're tapping. For us, we tap our card and you don't even swipe it anymore. You just got to kind of put it close by there. And
or your phone. You don't even need the card. You just take your phone and Apple Pay, sure. And you just like fingerprint. And you just lose track of everything. And I think that that's like a really big obstacle that one can face because things don't clear all the way. You debit or credit, you like credit, and that takes longer to clear sometimes than debit. And you go to the gas station, they authorize $1, they don't take the full 30, and you're like, wait, what happened? And then the subscriptions online, things we subscribe to.
That's what I was gonna say. It's too easy. You can order something from Amazon when you're half asleep and you wake up and you're like, oh, what did I just order last night when I was in bed on my phone again, right? Like it's just way too, you don't even have to get your butt in the car and then drive to the mall anymore, right? It's too easy. And we have to be careful that when it's too easy, you know, that's when the problems come, right? Like anything in life, you know, it takes that diligence. Maybe you make a rule for yourself or as a couple, you know, anything over $50, we don't spend until we think about it for a day or two, right? Like there's these little safeguards that you can put. And, you know, when we're kids and we say, hey, we want something, no, or ask me tomorrow, right? and then we think about it and maybe we don't ask the next day. So the same sort of thing, like, okay, if I want something, I'm going to think about it for a week. And if I still want it, okay, then I'll buy it, right? So the more time that we put, then it helps us to not have to fight that, again, instant gratification. So if I'm going through the grocery store and I'm hungry, well, I'm going to buy twice as many groceries, right? If I got the list and I say that's all I'm buying, it's going to go better, right? So we just got to realize where our weaknesses are and put those safeguards in place for ourselves.
Safeguards is key. I hope y'all heard that because I need to do it myself. I need to set up some safeguards. Don't go to the supermarket hungry. Don't shop hungry. Don't shop hungry because I had to keep saying it right. Don't shop hungry.
Don't Don't be mad about something and say, well, now I deserve to go buy myself something to feel better. I gotta just go get my nails done quickly.
Like, oh man, I'm going shopping.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, we all have the same struggles. They just look different. So,
and just maybe set up like a 1 day celebratory day or something that you say, this is how I'm going to celebrate myself, or this is how I'm going to reward, but not all the time either, because that's like going on a diet and saying today's my cheat day, but then every day is your cheat day.
Yeah.
I thought about cheating, on my diet the other day. I think no, it wasn't the other day, it was today. I was going to cheat, and I was like, I didn't work out today. I can't cheat. Like,
yeah,
those grandma cookies was looking so good, and I was like, no, I'm saving my dollar. Like, you have to really, like you say, you have to think about it, right? You have to just set your mind to be focused and solely focused on what the goal is. And a lot of times I talk about stewardship, because God gives us provision. He makes provision for us. He makes ways for us. And sometimes we just don't see it because we're not looking for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're like, God, I want this. And you have the money, but you don't have the budget to show you where the money is at. So I believe that budgets are essential. I need one. I think you're going to have to invoice me.
I think another thing around money and success is that we tend to more and more, we don't really respect people, I think, when they have that success. But I think we have to change our mindset around that too, instead of resenting, right? Like, like my coworker can go get a brand new car. I can't. Like, what's wrong with this? Like, why can't I get what they have, right? Instead of like, well, you know what, they're doing something right. Maybe I need to think about how, if I really want a new car, like how am I going to make that happen? But so often we turn to like, they're getting ahead and I'm not, and resenting. But again, we've got to change our mindset to like, how about we ask somebody who's doing well in something to help us, right? So instead of me looking at somebody who, obviously, again, goes to the gym, I usually use that as an example because it's easy to resonate with, right? But I've had 4 kids. I don't look like what I used to. So, instead of me resenting.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? But if I resent someone who goes to the gym, why don't I instead say to them, you know what, you're obviously got this figured out. Like, could you help me? Right? But we're so shy to just ask for help. But again, we got to just, if someone's got a great marriage and we're struggling, we got to ask them, hey, would you be our mentor for us? Right? And again, in all areas of life. Someone who's starting a business, talk to someone who has a business that's doing well and say, hey, I'm starting out. Could you help me out? Right? And when you ask people for help, so often people are like, yeah, of course I will. Right? I'd love to help you. So, but we just have to not be shy to ask.
And if at first you don't succeed, try again, because there are some people who don't like to share the information, and, but keep asking, because you may find someone, or pray and be like, God, lead me to someone who's going to help me, in this area of my life, or, my finances. God, like, God, I want to be a good steward. I want to, do this, do that. And God will put people in your life who will be that mentor, be that coach for you, be that accountability person for you, to kind of teach you. Everything's accessible. People look and be like, oh, they got a Benz, they got money. Like, not necessarily. They might just have really good credit because they've paid all of their bills on time and they've managed their money on time. And so, I guess as you get older, that's what you just learn that, and try not to use too much credit. Try not to, spend more than what you really actually have. I think that's key as well. Do you find like a lot of issues in regards to that, like the credit standard, or okay?
Yeah, because credit is so easy nowadays, right? So what I find here anyway is that credit cards, you don't have to make very much. Or I remember being a student and I was making nothing, and I was in university, and there's all those booths. Want a credit card? Want a credit card? And then when I have my first job, I can't even get a credit card, right? So it seems like if you don't have money, it's almost easier to get credit. And I always think, like, do they want you to fail, right? Or my credit card, the company automatically bumped up the limit. Well, as the limit goes up, if you're not paying attention again, you can start to spend more and more because you just are like, oh, I guess it didn't, it didn't decline me. So I guess I still have money. And then you get that statement and you're like, oh, they increased my limit. I never asked, right? And then now you got to pay this off. And this is a vicious cycle of credit cards are the worst, right? It's so hard to get back into the black with those things. So so I just find this unsecured high interest credit is so easy. And when you're in a tight spot, you have to use it, right? But when you plan ahead, you can get the low interest credit, like mortgages. And so, there's a limited amount of income coming in, and we really have to figure out the expense part, right? So that we are not overspending for what we make. And I think the other part of that is, again, not to get too comfortable in your work, right? Like continue to look for more opportunities where you can maybe do a job transfer or, level up a company where you're making a little bit more. And it's hard sometimes because it's comfortable, it's easy, or you like the people you work with, but sometimes financially it makes sense to take that next step up, right? So you can't move all the time, but every once in a while to be looking for those new opportunities, or starting a side business, or there's so many ways to do it, but it takes getting uncomfortable, it takes sacrifice, but that's the only way that we grow, right? And like you said, you have to trust in the Lord, trust in the abilities that you have and your giftings, and that somebody out there, needs you in their company, right? And is just looking for somebody just like you. So, so it's not always just the expenses, but continue to look at different ways to bring in more income as well.
You are so full of so much knowledge in regards to this. It just flows so easy. I'm over here like, that's so true. That's just so true. You just have to look at things differently. Who influenced you? Like, who are your 3 people who you could say definitely influenced you? And it could be anybody, right? Anybody, anything.
Yeah.
Right? That definitely influenced you.
Yeah, I think that number one, it's always been people who are that step above me at work or in my career, whatever that is. So when I started, my first job was at a bank, and so I was always like, okay, well, I want to be that next person, or I wonder what got them there, right? So just always being curious, I guess, and admiring people who, they did get to management, right? And then my second role model, well, my main one is my grandma. So my grandparents came as refugees during World War II. They were displaced during the war, and they were from Yugoslavia area. And so just ended up in my grandma's side, they ended up in a camp, but weren't captured. They were eventually let go, but they were in some work camp. And my grandpa was at a school, and he was 14, and they just basically said, there's a war, go. But he didn't know where to go, right? So he was just traveling through Europe by himself, trying to figure out what to do and not become a soldier at 14 as a boy, right? So anyway, long story short, when they got to Canada, they had nothing, and they met each other in Canada, but years later. But they all worked together. My grandma had a few siblings. They all worked together, and they helped each other. So one could buy a house, and then they all helped each other to buy the next house. And that's just how it wasn't like, well, I got to figure this out on my own. It was like, we're all going to succeed, and we're all going to help each other do it, right? And so her life was really always about, we're working hard for you guys, like as grandkids, for her grandkids, I'm working hard today so we can give you guys a great future. And she worked just mostly in her garden and worked from home. So you know how it was, sewing and knitting and in the garden from sunrise to sunset. And she had enough to feed everybody in the family almost, right? Because her garden was so big, and anything left at the end she'd give to the church, and then they'd have a sale and donate money. And it was always about giving back. So she's a huge influence in my life. And then my aunt would be the third one. And she was the first person sort of to go to university in our family. So we had a lot of entrepreneurs, but she was the first one to go to school. And she was an accountant. So that was where I actually started my path. My career path was to become an accountant, and then kind of veered off and became an entrepreneur instead. But yeah, I just thought, yeah, like she's a strong woman and she's going out there and it's got a great career and very driven. And so that was the third person. So yeah, these people are all around us, right? And
I so admire your grandparents too. I'm over here like, that is amazing. Like the family work together. You hear that, right? Like I just wanted our listeners to make sure that they heard that, because that is family. That's friends. That's family, where you work together, you buy a house, then you come back together, you work together, you buy someone. You could buy a whole community, build up a whole community if everybody would just come together and unite with one cause. And that's why unity and unifying is so important.
Yeah, and in today's world, we're looking for division, right? There's just, how can we be different? How are we different, right? Yeah, and you have differences in the US than us. We all have different things that we're dealing with, I think, in our nations that we can see as division, and in our communities, and whatever that looks like, right? But ultimately, we're all more similar than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
If we can just focus on being kind and loving our neighbor as we're told to spiritually, then some of this other stuff we just have to really recognize is distraction, so that we're not doing the things we need to do, right? So yeah, and again, back to sowing and reaping, like you can't go buy houses for the whole family in 3 days. Like that's a long-term plan that everybody committed to, right? So again, we have to have that long-term vision to really get that big result. So
that is so, I'm just so inspired today. That's where Inspired by You came from, my company, because a lot of times we hear of stories and so much negativity going out into the world. And Inspired by You really came about because when you talk to people, you meet people and they say something to you that sparks something in you to want to change because you inspired them. I believe that you should let that person know, because you never know what a person needs to hear. Even just that little bit of encouragement. And today I was inspired by you because you just inspired me. Just your story, your family, your everything. It's just so awesome. And so good to know that, people have hearts like that, still, despite everything that's going on. And so what I always love to do in regards to just the shows, sometimes people come on, they tell stories, sometimes they talk about their lives, sometimes they talk just about their business, however they choose to amplify their voice through their story, however they choose to tell their story. So I always ask for a call to action for our listeners. I do that because I never want to leave them in just a state of, oh my gosh, you gave her all this great information, and so I love to, whether it's however you're led for your call to action, whether it's tips, whether it's, whatever it is. And so I always ask my guests to give our listeners a call to action for today. I know that you are a money coach. I know that you have a lot of wisdom. You talked about sowing and reaping. You talked about unity. You talked about the power of family, the power of coming together. I think you've said so much. I don't even know. I think you've just said so much. And I was initially intrigued when I met you about the money coaching. I was like, but now I'm over here like, it all goes hand in hand, and it all goes hand in hand. So I'm going to stop talking because, like as I always say, I get very chatty. And I'm going to let you give your call to action today.
So I think, so if people are listening to this, probably for sure one thing has resonated with them where they were like, that's the key thing, or something came to mind, right? So take action on that. And if you're listening and you're like, wow, I've got way too much to do, like there was a lot of points there that I need to work on, all that stuff. Do a brain dump, I call it. Get a big piece of paper and just start writing everything. Every time you think of something, you wake up in the middle of the night, run over to that paper, write it down, and then start to just make a list of, pick 2 or 3 things off that paper. Why I say brain dump is important is because we tend to have so many thoughts in our mind. I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And the brain's too full that it does nothing. So get all those thoughts on the paper, and then the brain says, okay, I know it's all there. I don't have to think about it anymore. And now it's actually allowed to focus, right? So just take one thing off that piece of paper and say, okay, I gotta take care of this. And there's other stuff there. And we know there's always more goals and more things we can do better in life, but just take one and take that action. So if it's, again, using a will as an example, I really gotta get that will done. Okay, that's the one item, and I'm booking the appointment tomorrow. And now we're moving forward, right? It's just one step at a time in life. So that would be my call to action is do that brain dump, make a decision, and take one step forward.
That's true. Just do it, y'all. Just do it. Don't even ponder upon it. I think a lot of times when we wait to do it, it never gets done. If we put the what ifs or, you know, I said this, I think in the last show, if you approach it with a, like the words that you use while you're planning to do it, right? Because don't say like, I should do, because should will prompt you to hesitate. But say you could do, because not everybody has the options to where they can do something, or they're not able to do it. They might have something really blocking them. So if you're able to do it, because there's someone out there who wants to do it, they desire to do it, but really cannot do it. And so just remember to just do it. Like, you know, don't think about it. You think too long. It's called it the 5-second rule, right? Where you talk yourself out of something within the first 5 seconds. If a thought comes to mind and you wait, that if you don't react upon it that first 5 seconds, then you'll totally talk yourself out of it, right? So that's the key. Just do it. If it comes to mind, I'm telling myself that too. I think that's why I keep saying it. You just got to just do it, because you'll talk yourself out of it. If you don't. So if they say, listen, Candace, you was talking good, or I can't just do it. How can I contact? wait. How can I contact you? Let me grab my pen.
You can't do it. You need accountability. Usually we're all like that. So get a coach, get the ball rolling. You don't need somebody forever. You know what I mean? You know, hire somebody for a month or 2. That might be enough to get all the balls rolling, right? And so, so my company is Investor Smarts. So investor and then smarts ending in s.ca. CA is for Canada. So investorsmarts.ca, and you'll find me, and reach out. I'm happy to help.
Now, do you work with clients in the US such as myself?
Yep, through Zoom, just not in person. That's a big joke here because Canada is so shut down still. We can't.
I heard you can't even go to the Walmart over there unless you're buying food.
I can't have anybody over to my house right now, so we're pretty shut down still. Yeah, but thankfully for technology, we're not completely shut down. So.
Yeah, and thank God for Zoom, because Zoom is something I dreaded years ago, but it's something that saved the lives and the jobs of many people. So thank God for Zoom and all that it entails. Do you have a website as well? You just gave your website. No.
Yeah. Investors.
All right, so that's the best way to contact you for.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So you guys got that information. Can you give it out one more time just for the people?
Yeah. Investorsmarts.ca.
And also I'll post it under in the comments and in the bio and under the advertisement picture and on Instagram if you're not following, because I like everybody to be able to contact, and she'll be tagged in the pictures of flyer, so you'll be easy to click and you'll be able to find her information. Such great knowledge that you've given out today. I'm at such a calm, such a peace just speaking to you, and it's really reflective today just to not only our mindset on how we not only embrace money, right? And I think that that your path is deeper than money, because you talk about so much in regards to just unifying and coming together. And that's God's intention when he created the family, for us all to work together. And I have my own theories on things, but I truly believe that we were all built to be entrepreneurs and to barter, because the family unit at the time, how God intended it, was stronger at that moment, before everybody started getting pulled away and distracted because of businesses and companies and things like that. My own personal thoughts. But so I love how you talk about unity and you talk about unifying and communication and things like that. That is just awesomeness. And I so appreciate you. And I appreciate you for coming on, and talking to me for this hour and us being able to chat. And I do look forward to speaking to you again. And I got my paper over there for my services. And I have to write a budget and budget you in, because I have coaches that I already talked to, and I need to, I need to create a coaching. Like, I have a great coach, hands down. Dr. Casual Pitch is the best, but it's always good sometimes to have different coaches, different specialties, certain things, anyway. Or you might just want to service,
Yeah, we all need to coach or mentor somebody.
Budget. Everything. You
Awesome.
talked about wills, talked about everything. Is there anything else that you want to say and share with everyone? I don't even want to go. I'm over here just talk some more, because I believe in unity. I believe in people unifying, and like I said earlier in the show, that we are helpers of one another. We are many members of one body fitly joined together. And so I just love people. I love people. Sometimes I don't like certain people, but it's okay. I'm learning. But I love people. I love, everybody's so gifted in their own way, and they're, and so so I'm gonna stop talking now, because
No, I just back to what I really believe is just we can't leave anyone behind, right? And the Bible talks about the take care of the poor and the widows and the orphans, but if we really focus on that, suddenly all these things don't become as important, right? So just making that our focus of we're not going to leave anyone behind. Again, that doesn't necessarily always mean the money part, but it could just be somebody who's, again, struggling to find a service to help them, or whatever it is. But sometimes what we don't see as that important is really life-changing for somebody else, right? Just that somebody knows that there's someone out there that cares about them. If you come from a great family, you don't realize how many people don't, I think. And so if you can just be that sister to somebody, that mother figure to somebody, whatever that is, again, it's not about the money, but just taking that extra time to, not just say, how are you doing, but how are you doing today, right? And taking that extra minute is going to help us find ways to help people. So as much as life is about money, and money is a big part of it, in the end, it's not just all about the money, right? So just find ways to help people. Nobody gets left behind, and keep building those strong communities around you. So.
Thank you so much. I told you, I'm over here I can sit and learn from certain people all day. And again, I appreciate you. I appreciate your gift to the body of Christ. I appreciate what God has gifted you, the wisdom that he's given you to pour out to other people, especially to pour out to my listeners. So I appreciate that. And I would definitely want to do another show with you. I think we talked about that before though, but yeah, definitely. And just to go live and again, to talk and to, however we do it, we will definitely touch base again. Outside of the invoice that you'll be sending to me, we'll be touching base again, and definitely speaking again. And so before I close out, you have anything coming up, anything virtually, any other interviews? I think you have a podcast that you
I've got a podcast. So what I do is I interview different business owners, and I need to have you on the podcast too, but just to talk about, yeah, like there's, again, so many different businesses out there. And sometimes people are like, hey, I'd like to start something, but what, you know? So we just have just, again, like you, just casual conversations, like, how did you do this? And, you know, what are some of the ways to overcome the money piece again? Because that stops people so often. Like, I've got a great idea, but I don't have money. So I guess that's it, right? But just inspiring people to get past the money piece, to start businesses, go after their dreams. And yeah, so feel free to tune into that. I've got a book coming this fall around mindset and money and all that good stuff. And yeah, no, just day by day, one day at a time.
So what's the name of your podcast again?
It's called Investor Smarts, Money and the Entrepreneurial Spirit.
So make sure you guys subscribe to her podcast so you could get great tips, listen to some interviews and everything. And I'm really excited. Definitely follow her on all her social media platforms so that you could be updated with everything that Candace has going on. Make sure you go to her website, subscribe. She has an email list, subscribe, so you can get some great information because she's talking and helping with money. And that's something that plays a role in every single aspect of our lives. And so again, I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for helping us to evaluate, you know, what may be a struggle area in our lives in regards to finances and just looking at money different. And so I appreciate you again. And listen, you guys, we are going to be closing out this show. But not for good. We will be back on next week at 8 o'clock, Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, when we will have another awesome guest coming on to talk to us. So I look forward to seeing all of you on next week so we can have another chat and discussion. And listen, if you have questions, again, drop them below or on Instagram or on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you see it posted. If you have any questions, make sure you just, you know, let us know. Don't hold it in. A no question is the wrong question, right? So make sure you let us know how you feel and, you know, leave your comments and questions and everything like that. And again, I thank you all for tuning in. And remember what I always say, that trauma does not mean that healing, healing does not mean that trauma has never existed. It just means that the trauma of whatever you're going through no longer controls your life. And so I thank you again for coming on. Have a blessed evening, you guys. Take care.